Welcome to Channel Unveiling Mysteries. Using her own assets, she slept with her boss and the mayor, attacked journalists, and engaged in corruption and fraud. She was the most audacious woman, the mistress of high-ranking officials. From a journalism intern to a company president, she had to sleep with many different men to get promoted. In 2 years, she made millions of dollars, but ultimately fell from grace due to her childish behavior, arguing with people online. Yet, even after her arrest, this woman continued to scream, "I'd rather die than return the money." Why did she become so arrogant? Welcome back to the channel. Today we will explore the scandal involving officials in Shanxi, China. Before we get into the case, please support me by liking and subscribing to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the latest videos. The channel will upload 2 exciting videos every day. In 1976, Song Li was born into a well-off family in Taiyuan, Shanxi. Her father was a press official and her mother was a public school teacher. Song Li grew up in a wealthy family, pampered and specially nurtured. As long as it was their daughter's request, her parents would do their best to satisfy it. Influenced by her parents, Song Li loved to study. Coupled with her sweet and charming appearance, she was always the center of attention. But after graduating from university, Li's smooth-sailing life came to an end. While all her classmates found their dream jobs, Song Li couldn't find a desirable job for various reasons. Either she found the work unworthy, or she couldn't endure the hardship. So, after trying a few jobs, Li quickly resigned from all of them. Seeing that his daughter had never settled down, Li's father was also very worried. So he used his connections to help his daughter get a job at a newspaper. The job was simple. Just deliver the newspapers to subscribers in the area, and at the same time, try to sell more papers to increase subscriptions. Although she felt this job was beneath a university student, Song Li still didn't refuse to join the editorial office in 1999. She was told that she could be promoted as long as she completed certain tasks. Li was full of fighting spirit and hoped to be promoted as soon as possible. But to promote the newspaper, she needed to leave early and come home late every day. Li, who had been pampered since childhood, could not accept this at all. Before long, she started complaining to her father. She wanted him to find a connection and move her to another department. But a job at this publishing house was not easy to get, so it wasn't easy to change either. Besides, Li's father also understood that if he continued to pamper his daughter like this, it would backfire sooner or later. So he refused her request. But he never expected that because of this, Li would take a different path. After arguing with her father, Song Li still didn't give up on the idea of changing jobs. She started thinking about shortcuts to achieve her goals. When she was in college, there were always boys who wanted to pursue her and did various things for her. Li also always knew how to use her beauty as an advantage. But society and school are different. She couldn't make others bow to her just by smiling. She needed to truly offer her body. But did she really want to do this? After a period of struggle, Song Li could no longer stand being ordered around every day. She gritted her teeth, ready to conquer her first target. At a cocktail party at the newspaper's editorial office, Li met the owner of the newspaper company, her superior. It was Lao Yang, the leader of the Shanxi Evening News. She had prepared carefully and put on exquisite makeup. Every movement was full of the charm of a mature woman. Under Li's teasing, whether intentional or not, Lao Yang quickly glanced under her skirt. At the end of the party, Lao Yang asked her out on a date. Song Li knew very well that Lao Yang was 20 years older than her and that he was married. But for this girl, as long as she could get promoted and a raise, it wasn't a problem. After having an intimate relationship with Lao Yang, Li's life at the newspaper office indeed got better. She no longer had to run errands under the sun, and her colleagues were also very courteous to her. Especially in 2002, after the newspaper where Song Li worked merged with Lao Yang's Shanxi Evening News, there was a major personnel reshuffle between the two newspapers. Seizing this opportunity, Lao Yang successfully transferred Li to be a photojournalist. Li's goal of changing jobs was finally achieved. This job was not only easier than that of a publisher, but the title also sounded more prestigious. Li was also quite satisfied with this. She had asked her father for this job for a long time without success. But Lao Yang solved the problem with just one sentence. This further fueled her desire for power. Li increasingly felt that she should not be content with the present. Her beauty and intelligence were her innate advantages. God had given her such an outstanding appearance, so she reminded herself to stand on a higher stage to receive praise from others. And now, the job of a reporter also provided her with a convenient way to climb higher. Because of her outstanding appearance and Lao Yang's care, Li always had the opportunity to interview big shots. Due to her beauty and intelligence, the high-ranking officials she interviewed were also happy to associate with Li and provide her with some new opportunities. In 2006, Li was transferred to serve in the People's Congress Daily, sponsored by the Shanxi Provincial People's Congress. What this newspaper needed to write about were mainly large enterprises and units in Shanxi. This also gave Song Li a bigger platform to develop. Relying on her bright and charming appearance, Li quickly accumulated a lot of connections. Lao Yang also found a foothold in the upper class and became a frequent guest at many celebrity gatherings. But every time Lao Yang attended an event, besides creating opportunities for Song Li to network, it also made her realize the gap between social classes. There were things that others could easily have, but she had strived for 30 years and still couldn't reach them. Therefore, every time she attended an event, Li would serve Lao Yang with all her heart. Having just joined the People's Congress Daily, she set her sights on Li Zhenglun, the newspaper's president at the time. Li Zhenglun also held the position of Deputy Secretary General of the National People's Congress. He was very busy with official duties and rarely came to the editorial office. Li didn't even have a chance to contact him. And at this cocktail party, Li finally met Li Zhenglun. She put her long legs forward and used all her charm to chat with Li Zhenglun. Song Li, who had slept with many men, handled it very cleverly. After a while of conversation, Li Zhenglun was obviously interested in her. Song Li took the opportunity to ask him out for their next dinner. Every step after that developed according to plan. After becoming Li Zhenglun's woman, Li's path to promotion became even wider. In just 2 years, from April 2010 to July 2012, Li successively held the positions of Deputy Director, Director, and President of the People's Representative Network. She also served as the Editor-in-Chief of the People's Congress Daily, Assistant to the President, and Deputy Editor-in-Chief. In 2011, she was still supported by Li Zhenglun, so her new company, named Liyuan Media, was established. Li herself served as the chairman of the board. Song Li was only 36 years old that year, but had successfully completed her career advancement. Li had been in contact with and slept with many dignitaries over the years. Besides being envious of their fame and status, what she was most envious of was their huge fortune. Therefore, while pursuing social status, Song Li was constantly making money. In 2010, Li had the opportunity to interview Mayor Zhang Bao. She knew that this interview would help her reach a higher milestone. So, before the official interview day arrived, Song Li did her best, using various channels to learn about Zhang Bao's preferences and taboos. With her efforts, Zhang Bao had a deep impression of her. Song Li was familiar with the subsequent process. Everything went smoothly, and she served Zhang Bao to his satisfaction. But she still didn't give up her relationship with Li Zhenglun. After all, Li Zhenglun could still help her a lot at the newspaper office. But sleeping with two men at the same time took up too much of Song Li's energy and time. She was already married then, and couldn't take care of her husband and young child. So after her husband found out that Li was cheating on him, he filed for divorce. At this time, Song Li was having a smooth career. Her two lovers, Zhang Bao and Li Zhenglun, were also very attentive to her. Under their protection, she resolutely agreed to the divorce and gave up custody of her child. Without having to worry about family, Song Li became more and more shameless. As a celebrity with a good relationship with the mayor, some wealthy businessmen with different motives came to flatter Li, hoping she could connect them with the mayor. Naturally, Song Li had her own methods. She would whisper to Mayor Zhang Bao, always subtly mentioning the businesses to him. This made Zhang Bao not only obsessed with the beauty's curves, but also unable to let go of the benefits she could bring. In just half a year, Song Li had enchanted Zhang Bao. He was willing to provide her with various opportunities and benefits. In 2010, the city held an international mountaineering festival. This event was very grand. Not only were domestic singers and celebrities invited, but there were also 31 companies that would sponsor the event. After learning the news, Song Li directly went to Zhang Bao, asking him to let her media company organize the event. Originally, according to the procedure, they needed to have a public discussion to see who had the right to host the event. But Zhang Bao was so mesmerized by Song Li that he immediately decided to choose her company. After the event began, Li had to intervene in everything she did. She did this because she had to be responsible for herself. On the other hand, Li was also trying her best to reduce costs in many areas. Next, a large amount of counterfeit money was issued to increase spending on the event. In the process, she quietly pocketed the difference of 5.5 million yuan, equivalent to 18 billion Vietnamese dong. But after the event, due to Li's cost-cutting behavior, the company's previous sponsorship of 29 million yuan only had 11 million left. Li wanted to take advantage of this money. So she used the excuse of inviting Zhang Bao to organize the next event to transfer the money to the company's account as working capital. But this time, her plan did not succeed. The government leaders in charge of the event noticed that there was a financial problem. Song Li and Zhang Bao's proposal was directly rejected. Song Li was not discouraged either. She quickly came up with a new way. Sometime later, the city was about to start a cultural park project. This type of infrastructure project was the best way to make money. So Li arranged things secretly and released information that her media company was qualified to bid. Even a discerning person could see that her company was not right. But because the mayor was behind Li, they dared not say anything. Li again persuaded Zhang Bao to use the remaining money from the mountaineering festival to invest in the construction of the park. The account was nominally the company's, but in fact, it was privately owned by Li. After the project was successful, the money would also end up in her pocket. But then a problem arose. The originally planned location for the park had long been owned by the Sanyuan Coal Company. If Song Li wanted to continue the project now, she not only had to pay the land transfer fee, but also had to buy this piece of land from Sanyuan Coal. In a flash, she thought of a trick of Zhang Bao's. Song Li found Fang Jiwan, the head of Sanyuan Coal, and proposed that they cooperate. Fang Jiwan was not a fool. The land originally belonged to their company, and now they had to cooperate with others. No one wants to do a losing business like this. But under pressure from Mayor Zhang Bao, and also facing Song Li's beauty trap, after using both hard and soft measures, he agreed to cooperate. In this way, Song Li used cooperation as an excuse. With 35 million yuan, she transferred 70% of her company's shares to the Sanyuan Coal Company, with the purpose of letting Sanyuan Coal control Liwan Media and then jointly participate in the construction of the cultural park. But the premise was that they needed to advance 18 million for the land transfer fee. Fang Jiwan still agreed to everything. After completing this step, Song Li's target was no longer the cultural park project. She had her eyes on the large pie of the Sanyuan coal industry. So in December 2011, Song Li and Sanyuan negotiated to increase capital and expand shares of Liwan Media. What she wanted was to issue more shares, increase investment, and then let her own the value of Liwan Media's shares. With such clear thoughts, how could Fang Jiwan, who had been in business for many years, not see the problem? But he had long been mesmerized by their bedroom affairs. In the end, Liwan Media successfully increased its registered capital by another 100 million yuan. After completing the capital increase and share expansion, Song Li's 30% stake had increased to 43 million yuan. At this time, she used the excuse that the cooperation between the two sides was not happy to have the coal company take over all of Liwan Media's shares. In other words, Song Li would sell her shares, take the money, and leave. Fang Jiwan provided money to buy a project that had not yet started, and a shell company with nothing. He had fallen into a huge trap. But with Zhang Bao's support, Song Li was not afraid of the mayor's pressure. Song Li received the transfer fee from Fang Jiwan the next day. After this operation, she directly siphoned off 76 million yuan from the Sanyuan Coal Company, equivalent to 250 billion Vietnamese dong. Song Li, who was already a radiant woman, became even more arrogant and domineering after becoming powerful and wealthy. Her outrageous behavior gradually brought disaster upon herself. When Song Li was a photojournalist, she often appeared in the pages of newspapers. Her outstanding appearance and neat interview style attracted a group of fans. At that time, Weibo was just emerging, and she was already an internet celebrity. Later, Song Li climbed up to Li Zhenglun. With confidence, she became more daring. She dared to talk about officials and celebrities that others dared not interview or report on. Therefore, although she received positive comments from netizens, it also offended some people. In 2012, Song Li and an official from Yunnan started cursing each other online. Because Li never knew how to restrain herself, the fact that she seduced leaders to make money was no longer a secret. But thanks to the strong support behind her, no one dared to touch her. However, the person Li provoked this time was also a tough guy. This official had live-streamed the corrupt acts of many people and also demanded to expose Song Li's illegal assets. A government official insulting a famous journalist quickly attracted the attention of netizens, and netizens also quickly exposed that there were often many different luxury cars parked downstairs of the People's Press Office. So, under the digging of netizens, these cars all belonged to Song Li personally. It's not strange for a famous journalist and company director to own a luxury car, but driving 5 cars at once was a bit much. As soon as the car incident was exposed, Song Li felt a little panicked. She usually didn't think about covering things up, and as long as the relevant departments investigated, they could find out how much property was under her name. But because she thought she had Zhang Bao and Li Zhenglun, 2 lovers, to clean up the mess for her, there was nothing to worry about. So, the angry Song Li not only did not maintain a standard attitude, but she also went to investigate the whistleblower in a frenzy. After confirming that it was an employee of a newspaper, she hired someone to beat him right in front of the editorial office. The next day, this employee was fired. Li was not aware of the seriousness of the situation, but Li Zhenglun and Zhang Bao both knew about it. Therefore, Li Zhenglun decided to remove Li from all her positions in the newspaper. Zhang Bao also cut off contact with her. The two big shots cutting off contact at the same time made Li feel surprised and chaotic. She took advantage of the fact that the disciplinary inspection agency had not yet started and immediately sneaked to Singapore. But at this time, Song Li still did not understand the problem. She thought everything would be fine after a few months. But Li did not expect that the disciplinary inspectors would investigate her thoroughly. They were just waiting for Li to be arrested and brought back to China. In 2013, Song Li thought she had returned to China without anyone noticing. But as soon as she got off the plane, she was arrested by the police. Song Li's case was also officially brought to trial. Before the court, Li faced irrefutable evidence, but she still refused to admit her guilt. She also refused to disclose any information related to the case. She even declared that she would rather be sentenced to death than hand over the money she had. At this time, Li was still imagining that Zhang Bao or Li Zhenglun could come to help her. But what she didn't know was that they were both in danger. Zhang Bao was dismissed in April 2013. At the end of that year, Li Zhenglun was also removed from his post for investigation. On March 2, 2015, Song Li refused to cooperate in handing over the defrauded money. She was sentenced to death with a 2-year suspension for corruption. 2 days later, Zhang Bao was also sentenced to 13 years in prison. Song Li, this greedy woman, finally paid the price for what she had done. She was smart and beautiful, the admiration and envy of everyone. But she made the wrong choice and was cursed by thousands. In her pursuit of power and money, she was blinded by her own greed. It's good to have desires, as this will be the motivation for you to move forward. However, once greed goes too far, and when you pursue benefits, you can fall into the abyss at any time. Don't forget to subscribe to the Unveiling Mysteries channel to always receive the latest videos that help you achieve success in life. Thank you for following and accompanying the channel.